So this is going to be objective 27. We are going to write equations in slope-intercept form. And I talked to you about this equation last week. Anybody remember about this equation? Y equals mx plus b. Okay, and that's what slope-intercept form is. It's a specific way that an equation is written, and if it's written in this form, then you know certain things. For example, what do we know M stands for? Slope. We learned that yesterday. Remember our slope formula? M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. But M means your slope equals. So M represents the slope, and the B represents your Y-intercept. Okay? The B represents your Y-intercept. What's an intercept?
Take it from the other team.
Well, okay, so generally your team crosses into where their team is and you intercept the ball, okay? It's where something crosses. So what we are going to do, you know, first of all, what x is to the first power, so what kind of equations are we looking at right here? Do you remember when we named polynomials and we said if the highest degree was 1, if the highest degree is 0, it's called constant. If the highest degree is 2, it's called quadratic. Do you remember those? Yeah. If the highest degree, and this is the exponent of the variable, is 3, it's called cubic. Do you remember what if the highest degree is 1? Because that's all we have here. We have x to the first power, right? And that's the largest one we see. We call it a linear equation. So these are linear equations. Do you know what shape this is going to make on the graph? Linear is going to make lines. So we're going to make straight lines today. Okay, we're going to make straight lines today. And so everything's going to be a straight line. The number in front of the x, when it's in this form, is your slope. And what you're adding or subtracting to the x is going to be where it crosses on the y-axis. Okay? And we'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. But it has to be in this form, which means you have to have the y by itself. Okay? You have to then have your equals. You then have to have your x term, and again, the coefficient in front, that's your slope, and then you'll have your constant at the end. It has to be in that order, okay, to be able to do this. So, I'm going to give you, I'm going to break this down into 4 parts, okay? Part 1, first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the slope and find the y-intercept from the equation. Okay? So, I'm just going to pop these equations up here. Whoops. Let's go back. How about I give you a minute to write those down, and then we'll talk about the slope and the y-intercept from each one. I think so, yes. Yeah, that's at the very, very end. That's in your statistics. So, yeah. I saved that till last. Okay, so let's start with example number 1. First of all, is it in y equals mx plus b form? Do I have my y first? Yeah. Equals mx plus b. And everybody says, but it's minus 5. Remember I said it could be plus or minus, right? It's whatever you're adding or subtracting to that. So it is in mx plus b form. So I want to know what is the slope and what is the y-intercept. Okay? So which part's the slope? The 3. Don't tell me the x, because do you know what the x and the y represent? No. When you graph it, okay, and we'll go over how to graph it in a minute. You don't even need to know this for right now. But when we graph it, first of all, it's going to cross down here at -5, and then the slope's going to go up 3 and over 1, up 3 and over 1, something like that. Okay? But the x and y, they represent the points on the line. They represent the x and y the x and y coordinates. If you took, everybody agree that that point has an x and a y with it? Yeah. Okay. If you took that x and that y and plugged it in to the equation, and you worked this whole side out and you worked that out, what would happen? Huh? It would all end up what? The two sides would be equal, balanced. What if you took this point? Everybody agree that has an x and a y? And if you plug that x in and you plug the y in and you work the two sides out, multiplied it by 3, subtract 5, it would be equal. What if you put this point and work the two sides out? It would be equal. So the x and the y are your solutions to the equation. They are the points on the graph, the x and y coordinates, that you can plug in and it makes the equation work. It makes it equal. Okay? So the x and y will stay x and y. Don't include x in your slope. And if you do, if you say the slope is 3x, I'll take points off. Okay? Now, first of all, tell me about this line. What direction is it going? Up, because it has a positive slope. At what rate? For every 3 I go up, I go y1 right, because it's 3 over 1. 3 as a fraction is 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. So that's a pretty steep line. Okay. What's the y-intercept? The -5. Okay. All right. Let's look at example 2. Y equals mx plus b. So, which part is the slope? The -2. What does that tell us about our line? It's going down at what rate? For every 2 I go down, I go right 1. Down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. Where is it crossing on the y-axis? At +1. Okay. How about example 3? Is it in mx plus b form? Anybody think? Y'all think no? No. Tommy, what do you think? Is this in mx plus b form? Sure. What do you mean? You can add 0. Very good, Brooke. Yeah, just because nothing's there, what can you add to a problem that won't change it? You can add 0. 0 is not going to change. It's still the same thing, right? If you add 0. So, what's the slope, by the way? 2/5. Now, everybody says, ooh, yuck, fraction, 2/5. That should not. We understand slope in fraction form. That means what? First of all, what direction? Up. And for every 2 we go up, we go right 5. Up to right 5. So, let me ask you a question real quick. Is that a steep, flat, or in the middle line? Up to, over 5. Up to, over 5. Up to, over 5. Up to, over 5. So, steep, flat, in the middle. I would say in the middle to flat. Definitely not steep. Okay, just asking your opinion. And so, where's it crossing the y-axis? What does that mean? Nope. Slope's 2/5. If it's crossing at 0, it's crossing, what's that point called in the middle? The origin. cross, crossing at the origin. Okay? All right, look at example 4. Is this an mx plus b form?
Yes.
Yes, really? There's no m. What is it?
1.
1. Very good. So the slope is 1. Tell me this. For every 1 I go up, I go over 1, right? 1 over 1 is fraction. So tell me, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Steep, flat in the middle. Smack dab in the middle, because you are rising at the very same rate that you are running. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Okay, 45 degrees. What's the y-intercept? Negative 5 over 8. Okay, and we'll talk about what to do when your y-intercept is a fraction. Okay, any questions about being able to pick out the slope and pick out the y-intercept? No. Okay, so part 2. This time, I'm going to ask you to write the equation of the line given the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, write the equation of the line given the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to give you the slope. We're just going to work in reverse. Okay, I'm going to give you the slope. I'll tell you the m is 3 and the b is 5. And I want you to put it into an equation. That's the direction. The direction says write the equation. Okay, so if this is y equals mx plus b, what can I do with 3 and 5? Plug it in. So what's the equation? 3x plus 5. Okay. Oops. Okay, let's look at example 6. Raise your hand. Someone different. Write me the equation for example 6. Bradley, what do you think? 2x. What do you think?
Y equals 2x minus 3.
Minus 3. This is a negative 3, and you may not be able to see that. But this is mx plus b, and again, your m is 2, so 2x, and this is a negative 3. So instead of putting, and we know now, instead of putting plus negative 3, it's better, if it's negative, just put minus 3. Okay? How about example 7? M is 1 and B is negative 4. Somebody different. Go, Tommy. So y equals x minus 4. Does everybody agree with x minus 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you put 1x minus 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what will you see on the SOL? X minus 4. Okay. Last one. Somebody different. Who can write the equation? M is 3/4 and B is 0. Go, Cheney. Y equals 3/4 x. Would it be okay if you put plus 0? Yeah, but you won't see that on the SOL. 3/4 x is better. Okay? Any questions on that? Part 1, check, check. Part 2, check, check. How many parts total today? 4. So we got 2 more to go. Okay? All right. You can choose if you want to try to sketch this on your graph paper, you can. Or if you want to sketch it on your notebook paper, you can. It's whichever one you feel more comfortable using. Okay? All right. This time I'm giving you the graph. And I want the slope-intercept form of the equation. Now, everybody says, Ms. Corns, why are those directions so long? Because that's what you will see. You need to be able to pick out the keywords that say what it wants. Give me keywords of the directions. Slope-intercept form. One more keyword. Equation. They want the equation in slope-intercept form. What's the equation in slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. So here's the thing. What do you need to know to write that equation? You need to know the M and the B. Okay, so here's the thing. You need to know the slope, first of all, and you need to know where it's crossing the y-axis. So first of all, here's your y-axis in red. Here's your line in blue. Can someone tell me where the red line, the y-axis, and the blue line, our equation, are crossing? At 0. They're crossing right here at the origin. So we know that B is 0. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Second thing is we need to find slope. Can we find slope from a graph? Yes. What do you need? 2 clear points. Do we already have one? We already got 1, 0, 0. Can somebody find me one more clear point? And you got to be very cautious, careful, and conscientious because this one's a little hard to read. What do you think, Taylor? I agree. This one's hard to read. 1 up 5, but it's actually going to be 1 up 6. The 5, and I don't know if you can see it if I take away the line. It's not quite touching right there, but if you extended it up here, so you did good though. That one's hard to read, okay? But 1 up 6, over 1 up 6. Does everybody understand that? So, how do I find slope from 2 clear points? Which point do I start at? It doesn't matter. I hear 0, 0. From here, what direction am I going? And what am I in, by the way? An airplane or an elevator? I'm in an elevator. Where am I going to go in an elevator? Up. Up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5, up 6. Up 6 is positive 6. And then to the right 1 is positive 1. And then if we reduce that, what's the slope? 6. Does it make sense that the slope is positive 6? Is it traveling in a positive direction? Yes. Okay, so now we know the M and the B, so how can I write my equation? Who can give me my equation?
Y equals 6x plus 0.
Just 6x. He said y equals 6x plus 0, and he said, but you don't need that. Y equals 6x. Does that make sense? So from your graph, you pick out your M, you pick out your B. Once you know your M and your B, you can plug it in and write the equation. Does that make sense? Okay, let's look at another one. Okay. Well, you can go back and catch it in a little bit. Follow along with me here. Here we go. Again, you can, were you like zoned? You can use your graph paper if you would like. Use the edge of your paper. Okay, that's fine. Here we go. So, again, we want the slope-intercept equation. What is the slope-intercept equation? Y equals mx plus b. It contains the slope and the y-intercept. So, in order to write that equation, you need to know the m and the b. Can someone tell me where, and I like to find the b first, because for me, that's the easiest to see. Can somebody tell me where the line is crossing the y-axis? At where? At the 2. Everybody agree? Everybody say, here's your y-axis. Okay? There's your y-axis. And again, this is the y-intercept. It's not the x-intercept. It's the y. It's where it crosses this line. And here's your line. The 2 lines meet right there. So your y-intercept is positive 2. Okay? What can you tell me about your slope? It's going to be negative, says Taylor. I agree. Now we need to find the slope. You need to have 2 clear points. Do you already have one? Yes. Can someone give me another clear point? Jake. Negative 1 up 4. To the left one, remember when you name points, you go down the runway and then into the air. And I agree. Are there other points you could have used?
Yeah.
Yes, but that's fine. Any two clear points. Okay, clear points are the ones that you can see that cross exactly at the corners. Okay? All right, which point do you start at to find the slope? It doesn't matter. I'm going to start down here. Where am I going to go? Up 2. Up 2 is positive 2, and then left 1 is negative 1. So when we reduce that, what's the slope? Negative 2. Does it make sense that my slope is negative? Do make sense. Cautious, careful, conscientious. You know, when you can look at the line and you see it's going down, make sure that it's at least negative, okay? So, now what do I do, JT? If I know the M is negative 2 and the B is positive 2, I can take the negative 2 and the positive 2 and plug it in. What will I have? Y equals negative 2x plus 2. And there's your equation. Pretty nifty, huh? Yeah. Okay. Why don't you, whoops, got to go back one. Why don't you try this one by yourself? See if you can write the equation. Yes. So far, so good. Keep going. They're looking pretty good. All right. Looking good for the most part. What's the B? I like to find that first again. I think that's pretty easy to see. Where is it crossing? At negative 2. Everybody sees that this line is crossing that line at negative 2. Okay, yep. Okay, all right. Need to find one more clear point. Wesley, can you give me one more clear point? How about 1, 1? I feel like I'm on a game show. I'd like to take slope-intercept form equations for 1,000, Alex. How about 1, 1? Okay, sorry. So, if we find our slope, what will our slope be? Where am I going? Up 3 over 1. And I'm going up positive, right positive, so 3 over 1 is 3. Slope is 3. And then Grace, what's the equation? Huh? 3x minus 2. Thank you, Cheney. Keep her in line back there. Any questions? Were you able to get that? From what I saw on most people's paper, they were well on their way. Okay? All right. You try that one. Was there anyone that was not able to get that? Everybody was okay with it? All right, try that one. And then we'll move on to part 4 and be done. Very good. Yes, always reduce. Good. Yes, good. All right, so looking good. Brooklyn, what does Brooklyn think? Brooklyn. Y equals x plus 4. Do we agree? Disagree? Agree. Very good. All right, so everybody see that it's crossing at positive 4? I think that's pretty much an easy thing to find. Okay, so here's your M, here's your B. And then any points, I'd probably use those two. And so this is up 1 and over 1. Up 1 and over 1 is a slope of 1. Remember when I asked a minute ago when it was up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and I asked if it was steep, flat, or in the middle? Does that make sense? That you are rising and running at the very same rate, so it's going to go right up in the middle. So y equals x plus 4. Do you need the 1? No. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so part 4. Part 3 complete. Everybody okay with that? All right, part 4. We're going to reverse it. This time I'm going to give you the equation, and you have to draw the graph. Okay, this time I'm going to give you the equation, and you draw the graph. So, can you tell me the slope? 1/2. Very good. Can you tell me the y-intercept? -5. Now, which of those is a specific place on the graph? Is the 1/2 a specific place? Up 1 and over 2, up 1 and over 2 from where? We got to have a starting point. But do we know where the -5 is on the y-axis?
Yes.
Yes, we do. And so this, I'm going to say, is your starting point. Your y-intercept is always your starting point. So where is -5 on your y-axis? Down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put you a point. That's where it's somehow going through that point. Now you can plot some more points using your slope. From here, if we know that this is a point on the line, we know the slope is what? I'm going to travel up 1 and over 2, and I'm going to put another point. Okay, now I'm also going to reverse it. I'd like for you only need how many points to draw a line? You only need 2. But I'd like you to put 3, and this is just Miss Corns' rule, okay? Because I want you to get in the habit of being able to reverse it. You may not always, like what if the starting point was way up here, and I asked you to go up 1 and over 2? You can't do that. And everybody says, I can't draw my line. Well, going up 1 and over 2 is the exact same thing. If I reversed it, where would I go? -1 over negative 2. Everybody agree that negative 1 over negative 2 is the same thing as positive, a negative over negative?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'd like you to plot one above it, and I'd like you to reverse the slope and plot one below it. And so then you can draw your line, okay? And please draw your line as straight as you can get it. You can use the edge of your calculator. You can use the edge of a sheet of paper, okay? I'll even, when you start your classwork, I'll give you a ruler, okay? Any questions on that? Okay, so let's go to example 14. Mx plus b. What's our slope? Negative 2. What's the y-intercept? 1. Which one's the starting point? The y-intercept, the 1. Where's positive 1 on the y-intercept? Up or down? Up 1. Why up 1? Because it's positive. Up is positive, down is negative. Okay, so you know it's going through that point. Then I want you to plot 2 more points using your slope. Now, you got to be cautious, careful, conscientious. Slope, we understand rise and run. You got to put it in fraction form. What is negative 2 as a fraction? Negative 2 over just positive 1 or negative 1? Just 1. Remember, what did I say about the negative? It goes in the top or the, but not both. So if I were you, until you get used to this, I would write out both. You're going to plot this, which negative 2 would imply what? Going down, and positive 1 would imply going right. Okay, so down 2, right 1, then I would reverse it. Make it positive 2 over negative 1. Does everybody agree that that is still the same thing as that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so positive 2 would tell me to go up and left. The bottom number is the run. Okay, so up 2, left 1. And do make sure you wouldn't, what's the number one mistake with negatives? They put the negative, if they see a negative 2, they go down, they go negative, and they go negative. Does that make sense? They go down and left. But what is a negative over a negative? And so what direction does their line end up being in? It ends up going up instead of going down. Does that make sense? So I caution you, if your slope is negative, you either put the negative in the top, which makes the bottom a positive, or you put the negative in the bottom, which makes the top a positive. Okay? And make sure you keep track of what direction that is. Okay? All right, so how about you try this one? When you have it, let me see it. So what do you do with that negative on the 1/4? Put it in the top or the bottom, but not both. Okay? And when you draw your line, what direction should your line be going down in? I just said it. Your line should be going down. So make sure that it is. You wouldn't believe how many people draw me lines like this and the line's going up. Is that your other point? And then you do a second one. Good. And make sure you draw one this way too. Okay. Good. Good. I think you reversed your slope. Make sure you go down and then right. You went this way and then this way. Does that make sense? I think you reversed your slope. You gotta go down and then right. You did it backwards. Don't forget to get in your elevator. Where are you at? Right here. Down one and over how many?
2.
What's your slope?
Oh, 4.
4. But I mean, it's right other than that. All right. Quiet, please. It's right. That's fine. Where are you at? Right here? What direction is your line going in? It's going up or it's going down? Looks to me like it's going from left to right. If you start over here, that it's going up. It needs to be going down because it is negative. It's going up. You did your slope backwards. You got to get in your elevator. Down and then right. You went this and then this. Yes. Is this it? Oh, you haven't finished. Okay. Please be quiet, guys. That's right so far. Now you just got to reverse it. Yes. You reversed your slope. You got to go down, get in your elevator, down 1, and then right that many. You went this way and then down. Okay? Where are you at? Okay, so where are you going from here? That's right. Then where are you going? What? How many? Really? How many?
3.
No. 3 is this point. Your slope is negative 1/4. So down how many? No, not to. You're not going down to negative 4. You're just going down one little step because it's a 1.
2.
Just 1 to 2, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're going. If the top number is negative and you went down, then the bottom number has to be
Positive, so you're going
right 4. Okay. Is this it? You reversed your slope. You got to go down and then right. You went this way and then this way. Okay. Good. Good. Which direction is your line going in? If you start at the left and go to the right, it's going up. It needs to go down because it's a negative. Okay. I'm not going to ask you again or I'm going to go mommy on you. It ain't going to be pretty. All right. So most of you got it, kind of got it. Did you finish yours? Okay. Yeah, draw your line there. Good. Okay. So our starting point is 3. So where is positive 3? Up 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, I really would like it because a lot of you did it backwards. I had a couple that had lines. Again, in America, we read from left to right. So when you start at the left side of the graph, the line needs to travel down to be a negative slope, right? And I had a couple people that had lines that went up. Okay. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay.